When I was just 16 years old, both my parents died. But they didn't just die. No, they died 2 weeks apart. And not only did my parents die, my whole family got torn apart. I didn't speak with many of my family members, pretty much all of my family members except my brother, for 8 years. And my family is still never the same. I don't think it will ever be the same, but of course that is the way of things. And what really happened back then was that I had just turned 16. I hadn't seen my father for half a year. And so after my birthday, I was prompted to go there. I go there on my bicycle, right, to pay him a visit. I hadn't called him in advance. I just wanted to surprise him, and so I go there. His wife opens the door, and she tells me that he's out sailing. This, mind you, is the first week of April. This is Denmark. I don't know of anybody who's out sailing in the start of April in Denmark, but this is what I was told. She gave me 500 kroner, which is like $100, and she sent me off to leave. And I left with this like queasy stomach feeling. Something was not quite right. But of course I didn't know any better. And so I left, and the next day my grandmother, my father's mother, called me and said that he had passed away. And he hadn't just passed away. No, he was in fact dying whilst I was paying him a visit. An ambulance was on the way, and this woman, his wife, I mean, I understand her way of thinking, her sentiment. She wanted to protect me, but I grappled for many years with this notion that I hadn't seen my father for half a year. And it troubled me that she lied to me in this way, but it is what it is, right? And so he dies, he's gone. We weren't invited to his funeral. All his friends were, but this woman that he was married to just despised my brother and I, so we weren't informed of his funeral. We didn't go. And yeah, it's unfortunate. It hurts that someone can be like this, but again, it's just the state of affairs. And 2 weeks later, I receive a phone call. I am told that my mother is being flown to one of the major hospitals in this country because she has had a brain aneurysm. A brain aneurysm is, imagine you have like a blood vessel, a capillary in the brain, and there's like a little pocket on this blood vessel, a dead end. And so this dead end, this little pocket, may just rupture at any point. And there's various lifestyle factors, genetics that might be at play, but it just burst out while she was taking our dog for a walk in the morning. She went into coma, and shortly thereafter, the nurses, the doctors told our grandparents that most likely she would have a very low chance of living, and she wouldn't be having a very satisfying life, to say the least. Like they didn't see much brain activity, if any at all. So my grandparents, without inquiring into my view, my brother's view, as to what we wanted, they shut the machine off. And I understand why. My mother didn't want to live wheelchair bound. She didn't want to be in this vegetable state, right? And I just can't get rid of this conviction, which it is, that despite getting into this state where you're brain damaged, you're in a wheelchair, that there's nothing that can be done. I mean, science is progressing so rapidly. There is so much that we're not being told. There's so much going on in terms of neuroplasticity, in terms of new brain cell growth, I'm sure that my mother could have had some quality of life to live. But alas, she was gone also, just a few weeks after my dad. And I remember when my father died, I cried. I was torn apart when my father died. It was very painful, as you can imagine. When I was brought the news that my mother didn't make it, sad wasn't what I felt. Devastated wasn't what I felt. I was not only crushed, I was not only destroyed within. I completely left my body in that moment. I completely dissociated from all my experience. I didn't cry. I didn't weep. I didn't say a single word. I just went straight to my bed, face planting, down on the mattress. Just stone cold, numb, nothing going on. And I was laying there flat for perhaps half an hour until some of my family members came. They brought me to the kitchen. Everyone was crying, except me. And they all had this weird feeling that something was not quite right about me. And of course it wasn't right about me. I was going through things, and of course not being able to process what I had just received, this news. But my grandfather then, he took me by the arm and he brought me outside. And outside, distance from everybody else, he forced me to cry. He told me I needed to cry. He made me cry. He told me things that would make me cry, because he thought that this kid needs to cry. This kid needs to process what has just happened. And I don't understand his reasoning for this. Knowing what I know now about trauma and processing all this, I had a very natural response to what happened. And to try to enforce a different response is never how to handle such situations. But this is what happened. And after that, so much went down. There was so much conflict in the family, because who was my brother and I supposed to live with? Our stepfather, our grandparents, our other grandparents, our aunt and uncles. There was conflict. There was war for an entire year in our family, and everyone was just telling us different truths about why we needed to stay with them, coercing, manipulating to stay with them. And I'm not going to share too much about all of that. It is not relevant to this story, but our family got torn apart, and my relationship to my family members is most likely never going to recover. It's never going to be the same. I tried to return back to make it what it was, but once things are out of the box, you can't ever fit them back in the same way that they came out. So that is the situation with that. And you can imagine then that in the years following, I was in certain amounts of suffering that cannot be described in words, in language. Every waking moment of my life, I wondered if I was to continue living this life. I was on the brink of not living this life anymore, because I didn't know what was left. I didn't have anything left. You can imagine being 16 years old, everything torn apart. Your life is just taken away from you, forcefully ripped out of your hands, right? and you're in this state between childhood and adulthood, and you don't have anything figured out yet. Your identity is still this jumbled mess inside, and it's a very tumultuous period in many people's lives already as it is. I was already depressed and crippled with anxiety before this occurrence. Mind you, I was not a very functional child. I was already a very troubled child. And so this happened, and it just fueled the fire even more so. But I can sit today laughing and smiling about this because I've come to a point where I'm grateful for all this. I am grateful that my parents died, because today I have an entirely reframed perspective on the past. Because you see, one thing that I've learned from all this, I've learned many, one thing that I've learned is that we can change the past by rewiring the story that we have of the past, because the past only exists in our narrative of it. And so, if your entire perception of what has happened is a narrative of suffering, of pain, of just troublesome and burdensome periods, of course that is going to be reflected in your life in ways that aren't really serving you, because then you adopt this victim mindset, you adopt certain beliefs about yourself that are intrinsically and ultimately limiting to your utmost potential in this life. And so today I'm grateful, I'm happy for their sacrifice, because I see now that their death, their sacrifice led to this fruition of my spiritual journey. Of course, we can't know how things would have panned out if things didn't go the way they did. But I'm not sure. I'm certain that I would have not been where I am today if it wasn't for this state of affairs, this string of events. So I wouldn't want it any other way. I would love to have a conversation with my parents. Don't get me wrong, I miss them. I miss them in the incarnation that they had. And it is quite curious sometimes to contemplate that I've almost lived as much of my life without them as I had lived with them. That half of my life has been without my parents. And it sort of brings about this questioning of, who am I? Like what is this personality construct that I have built? Because I can't go to any family members because they don't have any answers for me. They actually don't know what was going on in my parents' lives. And to be honest, there isn't much family to go to. And my parents aren't here. I can't ask them why this and that. Why have I turned out this way? I have fleeting memories of them as human beings, as persons, and my measly attempts to try to string things together to understand my own mechanisms, my own mind. But it is difficult sometimes. Excuse me. And so that sometimes boggles my mind. But what I have learned from this, what life has delivered me, is this knowing, this trust in. Because I don't consider this occurrence to be coincidence. In fact, I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I believe they died for a reason, and that reason was to deliver me into this next necessary stage of my evolution as a spiritual human being. And my brother also to to spark him to take action into his own life, to bring him onto a new course, a track in his life. And that is still unfolding as is mine. And so in this tearing down process, when life takes something away from us, it is not to punish us, although you may go into the victim mindset of thinking that you're being punished or that it is unreasonable that this is happening to you. But the reason life makes space is to make space for something new, is to bring in something new. And so I was dead set in my mental ways. I was stuck in my ways when I was 16. I was a militant atheist. I thought I had life figured out. I was deep embedded in this dogmatic view of science. And that really all changed when they died, because up until that point I didn't believe in anything. I was an irrational skeptic, you could say. And when they died, I started having encounters with them from the afterlife. Because my mother, she was at this coma section of the hospital. And if you've never been to the coma corridor of your local hospital, I can tell you it smells... It has this hospital sterility smell combined with the very distinct smell of human excrement. And so these two polar opposites combined produce this very characteristic smell, let me tell you. And so for about half a year after her passing, my stepfather and I, we would be able to be in the same room and sort of just look at each other noddingly and acknowledge that, yeah, we're both smelling this particular smell which was present at the corridor at which she was resting in her coma. And sometimes it would just be like in the doorframe, just like a little slice of the doorway. Sometimes it would be like the half section of a room, sometimes the entire room, sometimes the entire house. And it would be very distinct, like if you were walking into a room, it would be there. And we would be able to confirm with one another that, yeah, it is in this room. And you could walk out of the room and it would not be there. You could walk back into the room, it would definitely be there. My brother couldn't smell it. Maybe his clair for smell wasn't developed, I don't know. But he didn't notice. But it was great for me to have somebody else, in the case of my stepfather, to be able to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. Something was actually here, and it was my mother trying to communicate to us that she was fine, she was safe, she was looking over us to make sure that we were safe, that we were doing well. And I've gathered tremendous confidence in life from this, because I know that this life isn't the final destination. I used to think that after death that would just be nothing, or perhaps even just blankness, right? This foolish idea, when the obvious fact is that you have never had and can never have an experience of not being. There can never be an experience of not experiencing, because you are always already there. And so when we pass from this life, so to speak, when we die, awareness doesn't go anywhere, no. Attention simply relaxes back into the space of awareness that we always have been. And attention may still linger in various planes or dimensional realms. It might not completely return to the unified oneness of Source, of God, of Source, right? Of absolute awareness. It might still linger out in these intermediary planes, these higher dimensional realms, which are depicted in thousands, perhaps millions of near-death experiences, life between life, regression hypnosis sessions, pre-birth memories that people account for, and these experiences, all of them, many of them, overlap. And so we can gather insight about what the afterlife is like for most people. And I believe there's so much more to it than simply that one realm that people commonly associate with, because it still carries the flavor of this realm, this human earthly realm, that I don't buy into it. I believe there is way more than just this afterlife realm that we are being guided towards when we die. But at least my parents' ability to convey their still existing presence upon their passing has convinced me, of course, that there is more to life than this life. And so I have no fear of death. And that is quite the spectacle itself. In fact, I'm curious about dying. I look forward to dying for many reasons, but ultimately I'm just curious to know. I've always been infatuated by truth. Always been wanting to know what is really real, and so I look forward to continue on this investigation, of course. And so it has given me this unwavering faith that we don't need to fear dying. We need to fear not living fully. Right? Because my parents say, the story that I tell myself is that they didn't have much in the way of life left. Their life was pervaded by meaninglessness, by dullness. They didn't have much going on for them, and so perhaps it was just their time to go. Perhaps there wasn't room in their minds to cultivate new seeds, for life to bring about a new direction or track for them to walk down. Maybe that just wasn't in their cards, and so the house pulled back the cards that they were given. They had to exit this game. So perhaps it was just their time. And I believe then on behalf of that we all have our time. And it is our duty to make the best of the time that we have. And whatever that means for you, whatever rings true in you, I urge you, I call you to action, to follow that intuition, to follow that which really truly calls you beyond all else. Because if you leave this life with a regret, what a sorry, miserable day that is going to be. How saddened you are going to be looking back upon your life if you still have lingering attachments to this life, and you leave unfulfilled with these attachments still lingering in your baggage. So either, as I see it, you have two choices. One is to free yourself of attachment. The other is to fulfill the desires that you have in this life. Either path equally valid. So choose the one that feels right for you and go down that path unwaveringly. And I've learned so much about myself, about suffering, about depression, about other people. Because, you see, in those moments, for years following, I felt completely on my own. It wasn't that people didn't come to me, that they didn't offer their help. In fact, many people came. and more strange than anything is that complete strangers came to me, like classmates from other classes, just peers from my school that I had never shared a single word with, came up to me, just telling me how sorry they were for what has happened to me, for what had happened, and that they were here if I needed anything. And their words, however kind-hearted they may have been, it just seemed so hollow. I didn't feel the authenticity. I more so felt that people just felt sorry for me. They didn't relate to me, they didn't try to understand me, they didn't try to meet me where I was, because of course they weren't able to. I don't think anyone is really able to at 16 years old. But they came offering their help, which I'm thankful for. But their help was meaningless. Because people can only really help when they can approach you from a standpoint of having experiential knowledge, wisdom, and having integrated their experiences that are similar to yours for themselves. And what a key understanding that is to take away. Because how many people have walked in your shoes? How many people in life are trying to teach you about you, are trying to tell you how you should perceive or go about certain things, telling you the state of affairs, telling you how the world operates? But you have a unique gift. You have a unique way of seeing this world. A unique way which is entirely your own. And no one is in their right to tell you that you're wrong, or to tell you or to assert that you shouldn't blindly follow your own guidance. Because life is taking care of life. Life is taking care of your path. And you're led down the path in your life. And so you can trust in that above all else. The guidances and the instructions of others, the wisdoms that you may gather, they may serve you, they may be of great assistance, but never let it sway you from the truth, the integrity, and the authenticity that you feel intuitively in you. Don't let anyone sway you from your path. I have been swayed by people many times. By other people thinking that they had figured things out and that they somehow knew better than me, offering their help and assistance. And it's quite ironic then that, of course, I also offer my spiritual life coaching program in the description down below. And it is all here in the highest service. But where many differ in my approach is that they assert that they have it figured out for you. Where I guide people now is that I try to point them to the observations in themselves. I want you to discover for yourself. Because my understanding means nothing to you if you can't integrate that understanding for yourself. The only understanding that is meaningful to you is your own understanding, right? And so we can only plant the seeds for understanding to sprout. But you have to germinate these seeds. You have to water them, to fertilize the soil, to shine the light of awareness upon these very seeds for them to bring about new life and wisdom. I can't do that for you. I can hold your hand. And so all these people who came to offer their help, they were empty-handed. And so I have learned great wisdom in simply trusting my own wisdom in this way. And also learning how to relate to people who are still suffering, who are still going through the turmoil of life. Because not only have I been through the ringer, Not only the ringer, I've been in the washing machine and the dryer afterwards. I've been hung to dry outside. And life has had its way with me. Not only once, not only twice, but thousands of times have I gone through transformative rebirthing processes. Have I been through times that I just couldn't see myself through, and yet I've made it somehow. How? I don't know. But through the trust and faith in life, which is also wavering at times. Through simply allowing the unfoldment to happen. Over and over again, I've been proven that there is a supporting mechanism that has your best interest at heart. That every experience that you undergo is here to serve your exact configuration of mind in the exact way that you need at this particular time. And I'm so honored to be able to assist people in this way and to simply be able to share this story. I don't know if you can use any of my story here, but I'm very honored and grateful to be able to share. But I think the number one teaching above all else that I have gathered from this experience and through the many experiences in my life, and it comes on account of this faith in life. And it is somewhat difficult to put into words, but I'll do my best. And it is this understanding that all of life is not only interconnected, because that which I am intrinsically, the awareness, the absolute source that I am, that is the unifying principle of everything. That I ultimately share my being with everyone and with everything. And that it is prior even to the concept of oneness. I don't really know what oneness means, experientially at least, because this is prior to the idea of even one. If anything, it would be zero. But through my many accounts, my many experiences, and my always ever deepening insight into life and an awareness, that which I am, this unspeakable, unwavering understanding, this experiential understanding has shown itself. It has shown itself so many times repeatedly that it cannot be questioned. The legitimacy of this realization is unquestionable, because it is prior to even the concept of questioning itself. That which I am, that which I also know that you are, it is this pristine presence, this beautiful divine presence that is touching me very deeply, but that I that I don't know honestly how to relay to you in words, but that I devote much of my life to, because it really is the source of life itself. It is that unifying principle which we all share. It is that which all religious and spiritual scripture points towards. It is God. It is truth with a capital T. And so, it has been the greatest gift that life could ever give me, and I humbly accept this gift for any cost, because it is invaluable, it is priceless. This gift of recognition, however simple it is, because it truly is the most simple, it is also the greatest, most miraculous, most wondrous, most awe-striking. And so for it to be what I am, for this treasure to be to be somehow hidden at the very core of my being, as the very core of my being, it is so ironic that we spend our entire lives looking for this treasure, looking for that which will finally fulfill us, looking for that which will provide us the happiness, the peace, the contentment that we all seek, right? That it is already what you are. How funny is that? How funny is that? That life has put the greatest treasure at the last place that you would ever have a look. And so I believe that when we are given or brought all this suffering, this immeasurable amount of suffering, I don't wish upon anyone. I don't wish for anyone to go through what I've gone through, because I don't think it's necessary. But for my thick-headed skull, it was apparently necessary, because I was very stuck in my ways at 16. And so I'm grateful that I am so stubborn, that I get the toughest lessons in life, because these lessons, I believe, provide the deepest insights into the operating mechanisms of life itself and into the psychology of mankind. So I have not chosen an easy path for this incarnation, but I have been given a path of many gifts that come with many struggles, and for that I am grateful. I'm grateful that I'm stubborn and arrogant, for that just goes to show me over and over that I am wrong. That I am wrong, that I didn't know any better, that I was stuck up in my ways, and that by exploring the wrong routes, that I finally come to discover the true path, which is not a direction to take. It is not a path to walk down. It is the pathless path. It is the realization that you cannot take a step towards God. Any step that you may take towards truth is a step away from truth, because truth is already. Truth is always eternally in your midst as what you are. And so it just provides me so much value that I can then go on to share with you. And for that I'm grateful, because I'm sure that some people would believe that empathy, compassion arise in response to trauma, because we've been hurt so many times that we just have this yearning to help other people, because we can't be with our own problems. But I still truly believe that it is a gift for me to be able to share all that I have learned and gathered throughout my life, and so much that I've not been able to share in this one short video, albeit very long, but still a short video in the vast span of things. But I am so grateful that I have been given these learnings, these grappling sessions with life, and that I can take so much away from it, so that you don't have to go through the same struggles that I have. And I think that is really the highest gift, the key to teaching and to learning above all else, is to realize that there's been people before me, before you, who's gone through similar experiences to you and I, and who we can learn from. Because why would we repeat the same mistakes over and over again, like a silly monkey, right? When we can simply study under people who have learned what we already are trying to integrate and learn for ourselves, so that they can help us quantum leap in ourselves, in our own transformation and evolution. Not only physically, mentally, emotionally, but also spiritually. That there are people out there who we can learn from, who have unique paths in life that are just similar enough to our own, that we can apply their teachings to ourselves. And in that way, really just level up. Not one level at a time, but tens of hundreds of levels at a time, gaining spiritual points. Just seeing ourselves progress ever steadily on this path through life, so that we can then come to a point in ourselves where we then have integrated so much wisdom, so much understanding, not up here, not intellectually only, but somatically, experientially, that we can then relay that to people in such a way that they feel the magnitude of our words, that they feel inspired, motivated, they feel touched by our teachings, by our stories. And so that is why I hope that if you have one takeaway from this video, it is that you feel the magnitude of what I've shared. That you know I'm not messing about. I am talking from my own experience. I'm talking from that in which I know to be most true in me. Because I believe, I am convinced that will be able to reach, help, and guide the most people possible. If you made it this far, thank you. Not only thank you for listening, thank you for being you. Thank you for showing up in your own life. Thank you for listening to life. If you made it this far, I'm sure you have been called. It is no coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. And so if you, alongside with me, believe that you are here for a reason, I want you to reach out to me. I'll leave my email in the description also. If you just want to reach out, do so. I'll leave my Discord link to my Discord server also, where you can also find me and reach out if that suits you any better than email. And I'll leave the link to Fiverr, where you find my spiritual life coaching guidance program, where you can work one-on-one with me. I'm called in this life to assist, to guide, to be here in any way that I know how, for myself and for you. So if this calls you, if this inspires you, if you think that you and I will be a good match, reach out, reach out, reach out. I love you. I love you as myself. Take care.